Fresh greetings from your colleagues the other side of the Atlantic or even the Mediterranean. I think to match you in patience, sometimes to surpass you in imagination, and that is said in full knowledge of the fact that sometimes you aren't very bad either. Anyway, I think you can go straight ahead. What should have been or could have been a kind of initial statement, you have it already in writing in the report to the Security Council, and for that reason I think that I just invite you to start with your questions.
Does the Council meet? Do you make further recommendations? Do you go back to the Middle East maybe this summer? Could you enlarge a little bit on what we do now?
Frankly, I praised you all for patience. I must say that somehow you start off showing that I was wrong. This is, as I call it, the first step. I think that the next step, humanly speaking, must be for the governments, for delegations here, and for us all a little bit to digest the result, to see where we stand, and not to rush on without having formed a balanced and considered opinion. In my own view, that is a matter that will necessarily require some time, and pending the result of such considerations, I would not like to be specific as about so-called next steps. It is for the Security Council to decide when or whether they will meet. It is for them to decide what line they want to take. As to the general philosophy within which I feel that the operation should continue, next steps should be taken, you find them in my conclusions, with a strong emphasis on the governments in the region in the first place, and necessarily all interested and friendly governments. I say there that initiative is in the hands of the governments. The phrase never satisfied me, because it's not a question of initiative. We are in a long run, and it is not anything new that I'm, so to say, waiting for. It is just a follow-up which is natural after the present effort. A present effort in which all governments have cooperated fully, and which for that reason, I believe, may for the governments serve as a starting point for new considerations in their own policy making. Trying to sum up what I said, I think it is quite clear to you that I'm not willing myself to recommend any next steps. I feel strongly that more than ever is in the hands of the governments in the region, and it is my natural hope that what has been begun in cooperation will continue in cooperation. As to the question whether or not I would go back, I would say this much. I have no such plan. I don't see any reason for me to take any initiative in that direction. The best way to encourage the general will to peace, in which I believe, to encourage it and to foster it, is to lend friendly cooperation to the governments. As to say, I give a priority to that. And on that point, I'm sure, to what extent things said, more or less authoritatively, by outside governments or by the Security Council serves the same purpose, I'll regard as an open question. I have not advised against it, but I advised in favor of another line. That's to say, the one of cooperation indicated in the report.
Together as soon as possible, with a view of discussing their differences and reaching some sort of a permanent settlement.
In the final paragraph, as you will remember, that the final settlement is probably still far off. You combine these two things, you can easily see what I mean when I talked previously about the philosophy in which I think this operation can continue. It is one where we recognize that solutions which are happily and with satisfaction accepted by parties are solutions which grow out of the thinking of those parties themselves. What we can do is to help the parties in that rather delicate process, and I don't think we help parties by telling them from the outside what they should do. Again, I think that if you read carefully my conclusions, the reply is there. I've already, so to say, restated it to Mr. Carpenter in somewhat different terms. Sanctifying, so to say, of the general ceasefire and the reaffirmation of the armistice agreements. Between that and what was referred to here before as a definite settlement, there is not only a very long road, but there is very, very much that can be done on specific points which, in my words in the report, would increase confidence and demonstrate the wish for peaceful conditions. I think that the second stage, if we are to talk in such terms, in an operation like this one, once we have got the armistice agreements solidly anchored in the ceasefire and themselves fully applied, would be to do all those things which do not prejudge a longer development, but would create the atmosphere in which an approach to long-term problems would be more promising than it is today. There are reminders in both directions, sir, in the report. Both questions lie within the orbit of such things, as I think definitely are interesting when you come to that intermediary step about which I talked, the intermediary step between the re-establishment of the armistice agreements and an approach to the major problems. Both belong to that in-between group, and I think I've made clear my stand on both. In one case, I have a direct reference to the Security Council decision. In the other case, I have, so to say, expressed a general view of the application of what I think is a sound principle, that all parties at the present stage, in the present effort, should avoid such action as might lead to added strain, if they want it. Please. Sir, the matter has been adjudicated by the Security Council and the Secretary-General on legal issues, unless he's willing to bring up an entirely new case and fight for it, follows the adjudication of the Security Council. The Security Council said that they found the present interference incompatible with an armistice regime, but they did not refer to any specific clause in the armistice agreement. You may see that in my report I have said that I found that it was not a question of compliance within the terms of my mandate. That's to say, there is a subtle legal question involved. I had first of all to decide what was the desire of the Security Council in this context, and it seemed from the resolution and the history of the resolution quite clear that they had not in their mind, also looking back at the previous history, included this specific question in what they expected me to discuss. From that point of view, the matter is, so to say, for me, in this special operation decided whether or not it is a lack of compliance with a specific clause in the armistice agreement is a controversial point. The Security Council decision may be said not to be quite clear, but its indication is that it refers it to the general state of affairs achieved through or to be achieved through the armistice agreements, but not to any specific clause. I'm sorry that I have to give you a little bit of a lawyer's reply, but on this ground I think I have to move a little bit like a lawyer, because the political aspects of it are so closely tied in with legal questions.
As fully complied with if the present situation continues in the Suez Canal.
My reply would be a direct quotation from the Security Council resolution of 1951, where they, so to say, sidestepped that specific legal issue by referring their judgment to the armistice regime as established by the armistice agreements, but did not refer to any specific clause.